Let's speak further about Floyd Shivambu's press briefing or media briefing held today. Bring in Professor Dirk Kotze, who's with Unisa's Politics or Political Science Department. A very good evening to you, Dr. Kotze. Good to have you on the SABC. So, consulting on calls to start a political party but remaining in the MKP is Floyd Shivambu's current position. Does that make sense, though?
Well, on the face of it, it doesn't. And I think what he has said and what we listened to now in your introduction, it is actually contradictory because the fact that it's very clear he made up his mind he wants to form a party. It is spoken in those terms, although he talks about this consultation process. So it's not about whether he should or not. It is about whether the party should be formed and in what form. But then at the same time, to still be in the MK party is an absolute contradiction. And I think he will be treated by the other members of the MK party as such, and especially President Zuma. I don't think, and President Zuma will understand it very well because he tried the same thing when he left the ANC, but still claimed to be a member of the ANC. So I don't think he will tolerate that with respect to Floyd Shivambu for very long. Maybe for a day or so, but that will be the end of it. And Floyd Shivambu, it looks like the approach that he has in mind is very similar to that of Musi Maimane and Durban Mashaba when they left the DA. It's also first a period of consultation, but ultimately with the understanding that they are going to form a political party. So I think it's going in the same direction.
Interesting that you reference the leader of the MKP, Jacob Zuma, because Floyd Shivambu paints a picture, well, he says, in fact, outright that he has immense respect for Zuma, and he believes that Jacob Zuma's gullibility, perhaps due to age, that was his turn of phrase, is being taken advantage of by those who've got knives out for Shivambu and wanted him removed as SG, and they eventually succeeded. Would there be such a big move in the party without Jacob Zuma buying into whatever campaign that was anti-Shivambu without fully believing in it? I mean, Jacob Zuma is no political amateur.
Yes, I was now listening to this again, and I asked myself the question, is that former President Zuma is very much was in the intelligence community. So if he talks about intelligence reports and that is that really caused his downfall, someone like President Zuma will not go into or entertain reports that are not, in his mind, that is very genuine. So to have these sort of conspiracy theories, I think sounds not very convincing at all, especially when you deal with President Zuma. He's a person who's quite experienced in this field, in this world. And if he was not sure about the authenticity of the reasons for the departure of Floyd Shivambu, then he will not support that. So I think there's much more to this. It's not about these incidents that you refer to that is now in so-called reports, intelligence reports. It's about much deeper relational aspects, I think that is at the core of this latest move.
And does Floyd Shivambu ultimately have what it takes to start or lead a political formation? I know he said this is not a one-man show, this consultative process and whatever will come at the end of it. But does he have enough working for him as a politician in South Africa right now to be able to lead any political formation and do so successfully?
Well, Floyd Shivambu is, first of all, quite an experienced politician. One can't deny that. So he understands the dynamics of politics at the moment. I think the big question is there still space for a party like this that he has most possibly in mind? The area in which I will most possibly position such a party is left of the ANC. And that is where the EFF, MK, ATM, and all those parties are. So is there still some space left? Because ultimately, the lifeblood of a political party is ultimately public support. Next year, there's going to be the local government elections. And that will be, if he wants to go in this direction, that will be his immediate test, whether he will be able to survive that.
You mentioned the local government elections coming up in possibly under a year from now. Where does that leave whatever this effort is? Because we don't even have a name to work with. How much time does that give Shivambu and the people he's working with to get their ducks in a row? And should they have their ducks in a row to maybe use the local government elections as a test, a true test at the ballot of the appetite for what they would ultimately offer if they choose to form an outfit?
Yes, it's not much more than a year that's left before the election. It will possibly be October, November next year. So for a party to prepare themselves for an election like that, you actually have to be on your feet already. There's just not enough time to establish a new party, establish a new foundation, to establish branches, to set up the party structures of such a party, and then go into campaigning mode. That's such a hard task. Difficult task. I think in that sense his timing is actually quite bad. He does not give himself enough time in order to prepare this, because on top of the idea of an election, this is a local government election. It means you must have infrastructure in the different local areas. It's not just in the province or at national level. It must be that you have local structures where you want to identify candidates and campaign there and stand for election. It's much more demanding than national or provincial elections.
And in terms of the MKP itself, Professor Kotze, how do you think the party will then respond to what Floyd Shivambu said today? It's one thing to talk about his future in the party and whether he'll actually eventually make it to Parliament, because that was what was said when his removal as SG was announced. But there is the bigger allegation possibly where he says money is taken, significant chunks of money basically being stolen, allegedly, from the party every month, as per his account, and everyone who's sort of tried to close the taps has been gotten rid of. How will the party manage that? Because he says he even flagged, for instance, that that sort of behavior would go against or put the party in line for conflict with the protocols and the rules of the IEC, for instance.
Yes, that I think is a further complication, but it is, at this point in time, he has to justify why he wants to leave MK. So he's going to present almost the worst case scenario with respect to MK. And the fact that he is not there because of whether Mr. Bushiri visit or other reasons, but it is because, I think, strictly speaking, he does not anymore see a future for himself in the MK party. So he must justify it. And for that reason, he will present the MK as a party with huge internal problems. I'm not denying that there are problems. I think there are problems. But it is, in this case, so we don't therefore can take it literally what he is saying. It is about now a process of how to justify the divorce that he's busy with. And therefore, we have to look at later on what will actually come out as what transpired in order for him to reach this point and to take this decision. Because this is the final line that he drew in the sand. Right. There's no turnaround for him.
And if he does leave, which appears inevitable at this point, will it be a huge loss for the MKP, or will it be easy for them to move on without Shivambu?
Well, I think what they've done is, it actually is now in stages. First, he was removed as Secretary General. Now he will possibly be removed as member of the party. So in a sense, the farewell or the moving away has already started before today. And I think many people in MK has already accepted that Floyd Shivambu is not going to be a major factor in the MK party, so they don't rely on him anymore. And I don't think, therefore, from the perspective of the party itself, that it's going to make a major impact on it. I think the majority of supporters of MK are those people who believe in President Zuma and believe in the persons very close to him, and not necessarily because Floyd Shivambu is in the party.
Okay. Professor Dirk Kotze from Unisa, good to talk to you. Thank you so much for your time.